Then I'm going to show you my favorite drill for flip turn approaches. We're going to go into some video analysis, and then we'll end up with a nice little Q&A. So to sectionate out the phases of a freestyle flip turn, I basically break them out into three. You've got the approach, where the swimmer is actually coming in towards the wall. You've got the flip, which is the somersault itself. And then you've got the push off. So combining those three things executes one singular flip turn. Today, as I said before, we're going to be focusing primarily on the approach. So what can a swimmer do to have a really good approach into the wall to prepare for that transition and that flip? So when you think about turns, especially in competitive swimming, say you take the 500 freestyle, which is one of the longer events, you've got 19 turns. During those 19 turns, it takes an elite swimmer somewhere between 5 to 7 seconds, and that's from flags in to flags out. So 5 yards in, 5 yards out, equaling 10 yards total. That's a good time from flags to flags, but only about a second of that 10 seconds is devoted to the flip itself. So when you think about it, going into the turn and coming out of the turn is most of the time spent surrounding the turn. So it's really important for swimmers to focus on their approach and their push-offs to really maximize their velocity and minimize their time spent transitioning between laps. The purpose of a flip turn is to help a swimmer transition between a lap going in one direction to the lap going in the next direction. It is faster than an open turn, and it does help a swimmer carry the speed of on the surface more than if you were to just touch the wall with your hand. And let me explain that a little bit further here in a second. So as far as the approach is concerned, there's a couple things you want to do when you're thinking about an approach as you're coming into the wall. The first one is you have to know your stroke count. This isn't as heavily coached and preached as your stroke count in a backstroke flip turn, but you really should know your stroke count from either flags to wall or the color change in the lane line, or from tee to wall, whatever makes sense to you. For the most part, it's probably like 2 or 3, but for some of y'all who are younger or coaching younger swimmers, you're going to see higher counts than 3. As you're coming into the wall, you really want to make sure you're dropping your chin down, so you start initiating the flip and you start submerging the head and the upper back, so that way you already kind of start the flip itself as you're finishing the approach step. And you want to finish this step with both hands at your side with straight arms, continuing to kick yourself through to the wall until your feet hit the wall. So you shouldn't see a stop in your legs, which is actually what's in this video. And you don't want to lift your head up, which is one of the most common mistakes on freestyle flip turns. So you'll see here, I'm coming into the wall. Right as I transition to this last stroke, you see my goggles peek forward because I'm double checking where I'm at. You also see that my legs have effectively stopped kicking. So 2 out of the 4 things that I've stated that help you carry your speed into the wall, I'm not doing on this turn. From there, as you finish that last stroke, you do want to drive the head down, which you see a little bit of that happening at the very end of that last stroke. My head starts to push down through the water surface, but I don't tuck my chin. So it's important to make sure that you understand where you are in the pool. That starts with knowing your count. You want to drop your chin down on that last full stroke. You want to finish both of those strokes with your hands totally at your side while you continue kicking yourself towards the wall. And then for eyes, it's best to place your eyes looking at the tee at the bottom of the pool versus the cross that's on the wall. So as I said before, if you do a flip turn versus an open turn, you have a tendency to be faster. But what is the reasoning on that? Well, when you think about it, a swimmer's speed doesn't go to 0 until you hit a stable surface. So when you're doing a flip turn, you have the approach, you still haven't touched a stable surface, and you have the flip itself, but it's the end of the flip that you plant your feet on the wall. So at the end of that flip, when you actually make contact with the wall, is the moment that your speed decides to plummet down and hit zero. If you compare that to an open turn speed happens to hit zero as soon as you touch both hands onto the wall. So you touch the wall in an open turn, and then you start moving your body around to get yourself off the wall, which is basically starting from a dead stop to initiating a bunch of different steps. Whereas in flip turn, you complete two steps and then you hit a dead stop. So you carry the speed better through two phases of a flip turn versus you hit zero at the beginning of an open turn and you basically have to create speed from nothing. So flip turns are advantageous for the fact that you can carry your speed through phases 1 and 2 before you actually hit effectively zero.